Put the clapper in front of your face. When you hit the clapper, you are on the air.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at the Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, which is also the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thanks, Richard. And we thank our friends, and we thank you, Richard, and we also thank our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, coming out of Buffalo State College, and we're grateful to our friends at Buff State. We're also grateful to our indigenous friends, our Haudenosaunee friends, and we remember that we are, a lot of us, on stolen Haudenosaunee land, especially Seneca land, many of us, and we also remember how the Haudenosaunee will always have the words that come before all else, which include just recognizing and appreciating all of the people who are there, and Mother Earth, and all of the creatures, the swimming four-leggeds and the flying creatures and the so many wonderful plants that are our medicine and our food and our shelter and our trees, and we're so grateful for all the elements that make this beautiful world, this wonderful creation, and we try to remember to behave as originally instructed so that life can continue in this creation. So on that note, it's a special show that we have today that we're going to be talking about women's roles and just learning about what we can do and what people can do, really all people, not just the women, to make sure that we have this wonderful, healthy, sustainable society that we need. So we're working on that, and I know everyone in this circle is working on that. So I want to recognize them as we go around counterclockwise, as our Haudenosaunee friends do. So the first one, I'm going to say Franchelle Parker. Franchelle,
Hi.
Yay. Thanks a jillion for coming on. We're so grateful to you. For all your work with Open Buffalo, for the Emerging Leaders Program, for the Sankofa program that is going to be on this Thursday, the 24th, right?
Yes.
On the Thursday, the 24th. And for all you do, you're such a great friend and a community leader, really, and a mom to boot of two young children, so you managed to squeeze it all in. So thanks.
I do, and I appreciate your patience, because you might hear one crying because she's not quite asleep yet.
We don't want them to be crying, but I'll tell you, I'm always grateful when they're on camera, or even to be heard if they hear a little burbling in the background, which I sometimes do. But anyway, but we hope they're not crying, so that we'll hope for that's not happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then, of course, Yanenowi Logan is joining us from Syracuse, from Ithaca, because you're at Cornell University, right?
Yep.
Yes, and Yanenowi is so active on a couple of, you're on the Cornell University Student Council, on the Native American Student Council, and studying in environment and sustainability at Cornell, so important, and is Seneca, and what are you, Wolf Clan?
I'm Deer Clan.
Deer Clan. Oh, Deer Clan. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, the deers are the leader of the animals, right? The four-leggeds, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's good. That fits in with everything else, right? With all your other leadership things. So thank you so much, Yanenowi. Yahweh.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be.
We're grateful to have you here. And of course, Sarah Kirschner is our the Western New York Peace Center's social work intern, is a student with Fordham University's online program, MSW program. Thank you for being here, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So anyway, let us start off with the values. So we like to do that to just sort of get us in the mode, and it really introduces the topic. So why don't we say, what are the values we want to remember in this conversation, or especially on this topic? So Franchelle, we'll go counterclockwise in that way.
I think you set the stage perfectly, starting off with bringing gratitude into the space. Many times when we talk about societal issues, especially when we talk about the stressors of being a woman or a woman in leadership, we talk about the challenges, but there's also a lot of blessings to being able to lead, especially during this time. So I appreciate you leading with gratitude, and that's really important to keep that spirit for me.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. Thanks so much, Fran. And Yanenowi?
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off of that, like the Thanksgiving address is what we begin with always. But what I would say value, I mean, in the past few months, I've learned just kind of keeping yourself at the forefront, making sure you're taking care of yourself, I've learned has been one of the best things for me. Being at a PWI, being Indigenous, like facing just everyday struggles and, maintaining self-care. That's been a huge thing that's risen up for me recently.
That is a big one. That is a big, huge one. Yes, thank you for raising that up, especially in this conversation. And Sarah?
That is huge. Self-care is huge, especially for women. That's a great thing to bring up. I'm thinking of values. I'm thinking of honesty. I'm thinking of motivation. I'm thinking of support and respect.
Yes, those are all so key. So very key. And I'm going to hold up really my favorite two. I think of unarmed truth and unconditional love. So as Dr. King spoke of, and he said they're going to have the final word in reality. So I hold on to that. And the unarmed truth, I really think that's part of it. Just truth. We need truth for sure. And that's in with honesty. But those truths, sharing our different truths, right? And then, and of course, love. I mean, actually, that's what makes people lead and makes people do so many things to just strive to help the people that we love have the things that they need, so that I that phrase, so that life can continue in this creation. And, that really is a question at this point. I think we were just talking about youth needs and people's needs. And this is a very stressful time. That's why I love what you said, Fran, about that this is a special time to be in leadership, too. So on that note, so why don't we talk a little bit about what are women's roles, or we can, use ourselves as examples, or what are women's roles traditionally? What do we feel our roles are as, and so on. We just sort of follow that a little bit and see where that takes us.
Is it fair to say everything?
Yeah, I think it is. Yes. And the kitchen sink. Oh, especially the kitchen sink. Right? Yes, it's fair. It's fair enough. Truth. We said truth, right? Yeah. Unarmed truth. It wasn't, meant in any kind of a way. It was just a fact. Yeah. Yeah, right. You're so right. So many things.
Well, I think in particular, especially as a Black woman, it's my job to represent for the people that aren't in the space, and I don't take that lightly at all. Because there aren't many people from my background that come from poor public housing, a woman, not politically connected, like all those things that go into how people get to leadership roles in our society. So there aren't a lot like us. So it is our job, how you worded it and said, unarmed truth, even when it's not politically savvy to say certain things in the moment, or, sometimes you feel like you're constantly beating a dead horse on the same issues, but it's our job as women, as Black women, as Indigenous women, to keep bringing our issues into the space when people want to shut it out. And I take that role as being like my divine purpose and why I'm in the space.
Right.
And yeah, so that's the first thing that comes to mind. I know at this point, people are tired of me talking about childcare.
Oh, no, we're not.
The issues.
Oh,
well,
no,
not
we're
you.
not.
in public spaces. In public spaces,
right.
it's like, oh, okay, you're a mom, you're a new mom, we get it. But it's not about me, right? Like my children are in childcare right now, but it was really hard to get them there. Mm-hmm. And, I know that I do have privilege because I'm able to leave the office, go get them, bring them back to my office. But if you're working a job in the gig economy, or if you're a barista at Starbucks, like, you don't have those same privileges. And with the skyrocketing cost of childcare, and disproportionately here in Buffalo, our households are led by women. Right. So when we see the disproportionate cost of childcare with stagnant wages in our community, that weight is felt by women. And so how do we supplement that? We can't ask the childcare providers to take that hit, because it's right. Single women working in the childcare system as well. So where we need to call on our elected officials, we need to call on help. Where's the cavalry coming for women that are working in this community that also want to be mothers? So going back to your previous question, like for me as a woman, it's my job to bring those issues up, even when it doesn't directly impact me in the moment. I have to represent for my people. Right.
No, it is so huge. And first of all, we will never get sick of talking about childcare, because I want to say it is the most important job that there is.
Amen. Yep.
Instead of being like it's a menial thing, like it's an unimportant thing, oh, you're just babysitting. No, you're forming the next generation. You're in large way, helping to determine how the next generation, how the future is going to feel every minute of the day of their lives, and what they're going to be able to do and deal with. So anyway, so that is so big. So
the second
yes,
part,
go ahead, the second part
of that is today. I don't know how many people were able to make it out there, but the home care workers actually participated in an action outside of the RAF building today.
Wonderful.
And so many, and there needs to be a real conversation around the care economy. Because we know most of the workers in the care economy are women.
Right.
And those are the economies that aren't publicly supported enough. Right. And so we allow the folks that are dedicating their lives to caring for the most vulnerable in our community, which are the young people and the elders. And we completely leave the workers out to dry. And, how many community members were out supporting the workers outside of the RAF building today? So it's our job, again, as women. It's not fair, but, it's us that are on the picket lines. It's us that have to keep bringing up these same issues. So care economy workers, for me, is a woman's right issue and needs to be in the center of what we talk about as women, especially women in leadership positions.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I just have to, I really want to go to Yanenowi, but I just want to make the one mention of why is it, who does the really important jobs, right? The people who are running the big mega corporations and the whole imaginary economy that is 7 times bigger than the real economy, which is the derivatives and the stock options. So that's really important, right? No, that's a big house of cards. It's a big house of mirrors. It's a fun house of mirrors. It's a big sham that's all about diversifying risks and playing the casino. Really, that's where the money goes. And I almost forgot all about the sports and the military and the other places where money we can't shovel the money fast enough. But the people who are taking care of people, those are our people.
Yep.
So thank you for that. That is so important, the care economy. So thank you, Franchelle. So, and Yanenowi, what would you say?
Well, yeah, first I would say, like, I appreciate those comments because, you know, we do this all for the next generation. And I mean, that involves everything that I'm studying with Indigenous issues and environment sustainability. Like, it goes back to wanting to preserve what we have now for the next. And, you know, I think about that now and starting up a tribal youth council. And, you know, maybe I might be aging out sometime soon. I'm only turning 20 this year. But it's like, I'm thinking about these kids who are in middle school and who are in high school who, like,
really
don't have the option or might not have the opportunities that I have or that I didn't have before, creating those for them. But I mean, getting back to like the job part, I mean, for me, I want to say, like, whatever you want that to be, I think that you should have complete access to. And I think that all of that revolves around those values that we kind of talked about in the beginning, you know, like this aspect of empowerment is really big for me because I think that for me, empowering people and even when I'm not feeling so powered or so centered, that like brings that back to me. And it's really like a reciprocal relationship of strength. And I think that is like a job. That's like a duty that, you know, you carry inherently as a woman. So that's a little bit of what I'd say about that. But really, you know, this whole caring about the future and, you know, childcare is insanely important. And I would, you know, advocate in all communities, but I know I see this in like Indigenous communities too, where, you know, it's not just childcare, it's all of these other aspects that, you know, really affect how we grow up and, you know, then how we do end up in these positions of like, all right, so now what jobs do we have? So yeah, that's a little bit.
So I love what you said about the reciprocal relationship there of the strength and the empowerment. You know, that we, you know, when we are building other people up, how it builds us up, or how, you know, how it makes us stronger as we're helping other people to be stronger, you know, and that is shared leadership. I mean, that is, you know, that, collaboration, all those things, you know, that are so critical to having a society that is functional and happy and healthy. You know, so that that reciprocity is so key. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, reciprocity taught to me very well by Lauryn Hill. But, you know, we think about this and, I mean, you know, I've experienced a lot of kind of loss and trauma this year, but and I thought, like, you know, maybe I couldn't finish and maybe I just had to focus on me. But, you know, really where my strength built back up was, you know, coming back and serving the Indigenous community at my school or like serving the other kids who are trying to apply to college and just these like little things that you don't think that like build so much to your character and your being, but it really does. And, you know, it's important.
Wonderful. That is so beautiful. And actually, I want to say reciprocity is so beautifully described in that Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Kimmerer's book. You know, that is another, because it's very deep in the Indigenous culture or in our, you know, healthier aspects of culture. And I won't say, you know, not the mainstream culture, but I'm going to say in in cultures marginalized, where people, you know, black cultures, other cultures, the LGBTQIA groups that have, and women, you know, how different groups, you know, help each other and, you know, share share that strength. Share that strength so that we can, advance or even just survive sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah, what would you say?
I think traditionally and currently, I mean, I'm just probably going to like everything that's already been said, but I think of women as caregivers, helpers, peacemakers, all of those jobs and roles. Even in my life, I think in me, I mean, I'm going to school for social work, so I'm taking on that sort of caregiving, nurturing type of role, hopefully. And my mom and my friends and my family, they've all been like healthcare workers, teachers. It's just more of that type of role. And they're all the women in my life. So I feel like those are the roles that I picture as women. And I don't know if it's because they want to be or if because it's how society has brought them up, but that's what I picture when I picture women.
Well, somebody keeps reminding me when I'm saying about women, and then they say, one particular person is always reminding me, well, what about the LGBTQIA? Because it isn't just the binary of, male or female. And that's one of the beauty is that we've realized, as more and more, that community and those different variations of which there are so many that, have come to the forefront, that we see that there another way is possible and it doesn't have to be this either or. And freeing genders up from those responsibilities so that men can enjoy being the house dad instead, the stay-at-home dad if he'd rather stay home, or have, that fluidity in change that's available. But all too often it still is sort of like this way that things fall to women. I loved it when you said everything, Fran, that it is sort of like, well, we have to do everything and then some and take our self-care too, But I will say, we've done this show and I just shared it on Facebook a little while ago because it brought me up a memory of when we did this show. You might have even been on it once. I don't remember if you did or not. That we did something called Women's Ways, Peace Ways at the Central Public Library, the Buffalo, Erie County Central Public Library, so we were just talking, that women, for good or for ill, women have been sort of put in that place. But because of the nurturing and because of bringing life in the world, that reverence for life is so deep. That is why women go into the care. Women are in the care economy. Because women, we want to take care of people. Because we're the life givers. And also, traditionally, the women took care of the land. So for the Haudenosaunee, the women were the land, were the tenders for the land, right? So anyway, women have had those roles, and ways that things are changing now is that women are maybe more free to choose other different paths and maybe to affect other different arenas that we haven't been in before as much. So that's another change that might be going on. And I want to say Emerging Leaders Program. Why don't you talk a little bit about the Emerging Leaders Program and how that sort of relates to what we're talking about?
Sure. We just graduated the 6th class.
Oh boy! Wow.
Emerging Leaders. Our Emerging Leader Program is a semester-long change makers training program. We when we first started Open Buffalo, there were a few themes that came through. We did a ton of interviews and focus groups and all this other stuff, right? And 2 things really resonated. One, that we needed more opportunities for young people and youth. And 2, that we needed leadership development that was tailored to making changes in the community, that people here in Buffalo couldn't afford to go out to Oakland or some of these other communities where historically have been a training bed for activism in this nation and really across the globe.
Right.
So we said, how do we model what's been happening around the nation, around the globe, right here in Buffalo? And that's what we did. And so Emerging Leaders is created by regular folk, myself, dozens of community organizations sat around the table and really just poured all the skills that they had into one paper bag, shook it up, put it on the table and said, this is what it is. This is how change happens in the community. And so that's what we do. We teach those skills. We partner with dozens of community organizations across the city to provide mentorship and allyship. They come in and they teach courses and really enjoy your time in college. Please, please, please. Because once you get out of that space, it's really difficult to develop new relationships. Right. After you're out of the typical classroom, you find that it's more and more difficult. So where are networking places for like-minded people that really, really love unconditionally the people and this city? So Emerging Leaders emerged as that place where people in the community can come together and network and build and support each other and love on each other. So there's no prereqs for Emerging Leaders. You come in, the youngest person has been 17. The oldest person has been 71.
Wow.
So wherever you are at, it's an intergenerational, multi-ethnic, multiracial place. We have fast food workers. We have lawyers and teachers and nurses. So if you care about the city, you can come and meet other people that care. And that's the root of it. We find more and more that the number of applicants are women. And that's because we care, or women that or individuals that identify with the struggles and issues of being a woman. And however that takes shape for you, you can come and be your whole authentic self in the space.
Right. Well, that is interesting. And when you say that a lot of the people are women, a lot of times it is, or more of the people are women. It is, and back to, it's hard to know how much of it's nature or nurture, but it's also relates to, who wants to do what needs to be done to change, to work for transformative change for people on the planet. And back to women's roles and, that the times and traditional thinking is actually all militates towards that. And so does our present. When we care, that we care for people and the planet, people, then we see that there are so many issues going on, then we want to help to change those things. How would you say, as an emerging, as I don't know if I want to use the same phrase, emerging leader, and yet you are a young leader who is, making change and working with different groups to create change and to really transform things. What would you say about where's some of your handles for work on that, Yanenowi?
Well, I think I'm still figuring out, definitely, but one of the biggest things I've learned is kind of just stepping into these spaces and taking these platforms, even if you don't know what you're talking about, even if you have no idea what's going on, just kind of anything you have to bring to the table is going to be appreciated, and someone's going to listen. So, there's been times where I've attended roundtables and I've attended conferences where I actually don't really have a good idea of what's going on, but you learn, you figure it out. And like that networking aspect has been so important for me. And I didn't see the value in it at first. I kind of was just like, okay, meeting people, I don't know, adults, I don't really want to talk to them. But then you establish these relationships and opportunities arise. And it's just kind of like this whole domino effect of just growth. And, I see that a lot in just whatever positions I can take. I mean, there's always things that I'm applying to that might be even overwhelming at times, but you figure it out and you develop this kind of just routine of kind of networking and opportunities that you kind of just figure it out along the way. And I don't know, but, I'm still figuring it out. So I can't even, answer that completely.
Well,
but
don't worry, I'm still figuring it out too.
That's
we never got it all figured out. That doesn't exist. Yeah. No, I love that what you said, especially because, also fresh eyes is an advantage. It's just questions or just having ideas. We all have different experiences, and we all have, things to add and share. So anyway,
Yep.
You're so right. And that courage to just do it, to just put yourself in those spaces. Absolutely. So wonderful. So key.
Thank you.
Now, Sarah, what would you say too?
For leadership?
Yeah, for leadership and sort of how you see, ways, say in your internship, how you're sort of finding yourself in this space and trying to make a contribution and do some leading and facilitating.
I think I'm just trying to use everything I'm learning in school and just apply it to everything we're doing at the internship. So I'm trying to use all my clinical skills that I'm learning in class when we're in rooms on Zoom, and then using it in Peace Jam. And I'm going up to the kids, and then I'm oh, am I using the skills that I learned? And then you tell me that I don't have to think that hard about it because it's going to come naturally. So I feel like I just need to stop second guessing myself and just because I know way more than I think.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear you say, because it's not just what you learn. And I wouldn't put, say that there's that academics or, classwork, schoolwork is not important, or articles and things but don't underestimate the things that you've already learned in your young life already. Just dealing with people, being a person, observing and being involved in life, and relationships with people, what you see and what you hear and what you learn and what your intuition tells you or what your senses tell you, either one or both. Those are big. Those are huge.
Yeah, sometimes when I don't think about school as much, it's way more organic, and then I'm okay, I didn't have to overthink that as much.
Right. The overthinking part.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know I'm very, very prone to that myself, too,
And I want to add here, I don't remember where I read it, but I read it somewhere about the wage disparities in
please,
in corporate life. And how salaries are negotiated, and the study found that it wasn't necessarily sexism that was driving the wage disparities, but men come to the table with a salary in mind and they ask for it in the interviews. Right. And a lot of times women are just, thankful to get to the interview that we accept whatever salary we're offered. And at the root of that is confidence.
Right.
And that we don't trust what we know. We don't trust what we bring into the space. We are divine beings. And many times, because we're so giving to other things that we're not actually saying hey, I'm kind of dope.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Yes, you are.
It's okay. That's
exactly.
We are supposed to say that. And that is, we are created in God's image. And so it is okay to say, I do know this.
Right.
I do have experience in this. And a lot of times, as women, we're socialized not to feel that way, not to be that way. So if I could impart any knowledge into younger people in any industry, in any community, at any round table, is to trust your gut, trust your intuition, know that you are divinely created and you are dope.
Yes.
And trust that.
Yes,
Love
yes.
That was amazing.
And you're smiling a lot too. So what would you say? Yeah, Yanenowi. On that note.
Gosh. I mean, you said it all, honestly. Like, that was really great. But I mean, I don't even have kind of the words to articulate, like, my own gratitude a lot of times. And, like, a lot of thing with, like, opportunities and scholarships is, like, I think, giving that back and, recognizing, like, thank you for doing things for me. And I think for me, with the gratitude being such a big part of my culture, you have to recognize, like, these instances of just, like, everyday gratitude and, like, personal connections, personal relationships. But I don't know, maybe you have to get back to me. I kind of lost my train of thought here. Things were going on back, but...
No, well, actually, I'm looking to see too. What are there things that we're missing that we were talking about bringing into the conversation? Because it's a pretty amorphous conversation in a way. When we said women's roles, and then back to, we started off with Fran saying everything, and which it really is. So we sort of feel like, I'm going to say, for good and for ill, women feel that the buck stops here, and then we also don't feel that we're bringing something special to the table, right? So we've got that combination of, we feel like we need to attend to everything and make it all work, but we also don't feel that we deserve the self-care, the gratitude, or the, or what we need to keep our energy or our life in order for ourselves, right? That we should just give everything away and not ask for anything back, or not ask for a salary. Or, actually, I'm going to mention, I can't help mentioning Confident Girls Mentoring Program, which is very, if Tiffany Lewis is doing that here in Buffalo and in Niagara Falls. And so we just had a 9-year-old speaking on the immediately previously taped program, who was so wonderfully confident as a 9-year-old. She was stupendous. I mean, it would just wow you. It would just make you feel so great for the next generation, right? Because as young as she is, that she is already... all of this is being given to her and encouraged in her, so that reciprocity and that confidence and that strength, right, is coming. So, I mean, I see both of you, right, and I'll say, Fran, you or I, as a little older, and me as even still older, I should say. But, especially for you two young people, as young women, that you are, getting all of that and feeling that, because we have we know that we have real issues, serious existential issues facing us. And unless people get very smart about it and very wise about it, I should say, not smart about it, wise, and that truth and love, that we have existential threats that we cannot afford to not recognize and do what needs to be done. And that's where I see the courage of young people of any gender, coming through the Emerging Leaders Program. And I know Open Buffalo has been very interested and involved in all the work on the environmental justice or environmental issues, as we also have at the Peace Center. Western New York Peace Center has an environmental justice task force, and but those existential threats, whether they're everything about nuclear war, nuclear power, the climate catastrophe, or just so many things that and the dysfunctional things in our society, like the predatory capitalism and rampant capitalism and global imbalances, all of those things that are really very here and now. So maybe why don't we just do a little bit on what is the path forward, and then we'll go into, and I guess the path forward does include what would be the other thing is how people can get more involved and, help, how people can help. So, Fran.
Well, you said it in your remarks, imbalance. Mm-hmm. And I think that imbalance is the root cause to most of the systemic challenges that we're facing as in a global community.
Right.
And, as you stated earlier, the importance of sustainability. And a lot of times when we talk about sustainability, we talk about it in the context of a county environmental sustainability program that's going to do environmental ABC, right? But no, sustainability is really at its core about living in balance, living in balance in your own life, in your community, stopping this. I can't say that it's a symptom of American culture, but it's my culture. So I'll cite it to American culture. This cycle of overuse and abuse and gluttony, and I just have to have more and more and more and more and more. And so all of those, like, how do we address the sustainability as movement leaders, as change makers, the sustainability in our own lives? Right. We have to create boundaries for ourselves. Right. We have to say no sometimes, and it hurts. We have to be sustainable in our work. We can't do this work for 50 years, going 90 miles an hour, right? You're not living in balance. So how do we create more balance in our movement? Open Buffalo, we're attempting to do it. Can't say we have it 100% right, but we're attempting to do it with emerging leaders, because I can't carry all this work by myself. Right? No, right. We need an army of people to address this global disaster that we're facing. Right? So how do we train up a cohort, a new generation of individuals? And really, we just need help instilling confidence, kicking the door open, some mentorship, because your generation, you already have the know-how. You already are light years advanced in regards to climate change and, in racial issues and diversity. Some of the things that we faced as a generation, it won't be heard of for you. Right. So you're so much further advanced. And so just instilling a sense of balance and sustainability in the movement, but mostly as women within ourselves.
Beautiful. Yes, so true. So very true. Wonderful. And I love the way you brought it, that balance that we need in our own lives. And that goes back to the self-care and things that Yanenowi was mentioning, and we've all mentioned in some kind of a way, but especially in that sense of balance, because that self-care is part of being in balance or having a balance. So thank you for that. And you're so right. You're so right. Yanenowi, what do you think? Path forward.
To that, I would say really decolonization. I think that it's more than a buzzword. It's, it's action, it's a mindset, it's to its core, it's a lifestyle. And for kids entering predominantly white spaces, institutions at an Ivy League level is 10 times more so, like just kind of a struggle that you realize, you know, once you enter, this is a school that like wasn't built for the success of you, but like you can benefit from it. And you can also like kind of break it down and change the structure while you're going through it all. And that's basically what I've been learning this whole time, is like, how can I take little bits and pieces with me and either tweak it or, you know, move forward and bring that with me. Yeah, really just this like decolonial lifestyle and that involves like decolonial unconditional love. That includes this lifestyle of reciprocity. That includes everything that we've talked about today, but like putting action to it. I think that involves, you know, these youth initiatives where we're learning or we're teaching kids and adults how to take on these leadership roles, and we're encouraging people to be to represent in their greatest capacity and share whatever knowledge that they have and bring whatever they can to the table. Because like without that, then, you know, we're just still having cis white men at the front, and that's like not everything. Everything that's not that is like some kind of steps forward, I think. And I mean, really just, I think that it's hard to break away from what you know as decolonization as a buzzword, and just like how you see like, oh, okay, like doing this is decolonizing, but it might be in some capacity, and I think that any progress is good progress. But really, just taking that onto a lifestyle is like, I feel like my biggest goal in moving forward.
That is huge. Yes, thank you for that. Wonderful. Decolonization and decolonize our mind. I heard somebody say that. Decolonizing our mind. So much of it, the structures that social structures that are out there that are problematic and systemically racist and out of balance and everything else, we've also got them in here in large part. Less so for your generation, as Fran was saying. You know, you've already, you know, there's a lot of it that's already been debunked, but there's a certain amount of it that's still in there because you're still living in this society, and we have not made those gigantic changes yet. We're chipping away at them, you know, but anyway.
Strong, it's rooted, so there's a lot of work to do. Yes. And Sarah?
Yep, I'm just going to go off of everything, the imbalance. I think it's, I mean, just the divide of the country and of the world. Nothing's going to change. I mean, to take on these big issues, we just need people to work together. So taking on the big issues, we need people to be stronger together than they are apart. I think that's one of the big things to focus on. I mean, it's easier said than done, of course, but that's just what I think of. I think that the generation coming is, like we said, they're strong. I think they're going to do good. They know more. They have knowledge at their hands. But, just better together is what I think for the future.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And also the generation, well, we think, well, sort of like we're in our different stages. Actually, you know, we cover a good spectrum, not the whole spectrum. I mean, there are people older than me and younger than you, Yanenowi, who are not in on this right now that we're talking about. But anyway, it is true that we certainly need, you know, to work together. That's why Harambe, you know, in Kiswahili, you know, that together, or juntos si se puede, you know, we know that we need to be working together. And that, I want to bring that, you know, I was thinking about it when we're talking about women's roles and sort of women, or not even just women, but marginalized groups who have banded together because for survival, right? No question, that's what we already know. And I mean, anybody knows that we, you know, when we're really threatened like that, that's when people band together. You know, when there's a climate catastrophe, a lot of times people are checking on their neighbors or trying to help each other, because that is the human nature. And that's what we need to help, you know, encourage more of that, in where the mainstream society has encouraged less of that. It's been like look after number one and things like that. So turning that around. But the women, it's power with and not power over, right? Where the colonial mindset is power over, not power with. You want power over the different elements or people or whatever. But women, it really is power with. And that's been our strength. That's why women have, women, there's this book called Games Your Mother Never Taught You. Did you ever hear of that book?
No.
It's in my age group. I think it was, when was it written? Something like in the 70s maybe, or possibly the 80s. But the basic thing was corporate gamesmanship that women didn't learn. Why? Because we didn't have so many team sports as the men did, or have the experience of the military. So it means we don't, cater to chain of command, and we don't stay in our lane so much as we are networking and connecting and being a community of help and a network together. So that's back to the power with, right? And that's back to what we need to really cure some of those imbalances and decolonialize our society.
Right.
So we're just about almost out of time. So if we just have a little quick go round with either a last word or just a central thought that you want to share for this, moving forward. And especially in ways that people might, either look up or ways that people might help. So, Fran?
Last advice would be sit still. Mindfulness, connect to your breath. If you think that you don't have time to do it, that means that you really need to do it.
Right.
And that goes back to the sustainability of yourself. And, being able to hear where your next steps need to be. You have to sit still within yourself. We would love to connect. We have numerous programs that people can join up. We have our youth action. You can go to the Open Buffalo website and find out more information about our programs. But we have youth action that starts at age 16. They just started, and this is incredible. It's the first in the nation, a youth-run text message system for missing and exploited children of color. We know that especially Black and Indigenous children and women who are missing do not get the same level of support and investigation.
Right.
So the Youth Action has started that. So if you're interested in joining up with Youth Action, go to the website. Same with Emerging Leaders. The application will be live, I think, in April. So you can follow us on social media for all of those updates.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fran. Yanenowi?
Yeah, I would just say Nyawe. I appreciate all of your guys' work. It's really meaningful and important. And it means a lot to me just, coming in through these spaces. I would say just word of advice, I would target storytelling, listen to stories, tell stories, make sure your stories are heard. And, sometimes just sit there and listen to some elders talking and, you'll pick some things up.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yanenowi. Sarah?
I would just like to say that we are all strong and capable, and to walk into a room like we are because we are confident and own it. So thank you, Fran, for that. That made my night.
Right. Well, I want to say, I could not be more grateful to have each of you come into this space, to have this conversation, and for just all the work that you do and all the things that you are. There's a great song like that goes, all the things you are. Anyway, so all the things that each of you are, I'm very grateful for, and grateful to have you here. So onward, we're and together we can do it. Así se puede. We are going to do it together. Gunalunqua. It will be enveloped in love, and so I want to say, Nyahweh. You could, to all of you, and together, and this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace in truth and love. Thank you all so very much. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks a jillion. Well, it's very late. It's after 10 per that clock. So I just can't thank you both enough, or all enough. Yeah. So anyway, so thanks so much. And we'll see you tomorrow, Fran. And we'll see you. Oh, and I got some more things I've got on the hopper too. Don't let maybe we'll talk. Anyway, either tomorrow or soon, because there are two more things, but I won't give them to you tonight because it's late enough. And thank you both. Thank you so much. Yanenowi, so great to meet you.
Yep, you
Good
too.
night.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Have a good night,
Nyahweh.
everybody. Bye.
Big hugs. Thanks a
Bye.
jillion. I'm tempted to tell her. Anyway, there it is. We did it. Well, that was great. Very, very good. You sure do have water. Wow.
I was supposed to drink the whole thing.
What?
today, and it's supposed to be gone, but it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Filled it up this morning.
That's all right. I bring water and
How
then
it
I don't
goes.
drink it. I bring coffee and then I don't drink that
Yeah.
either. Anyway. Well, I think those were both very strong shows.